One Detroit is on Mackinac Island for the Detroit Regional Chamber's Mackinac Policy Conference. It's a week of challenging conversations on where Michigan is headed. You'll see some of the most dynamic moments from Mackinac. Plus, Nolan and Stephen join me to debate what's next in politics and policy. I'm Christy McDonald. One Detroit from the Grand Hotel is coming up.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, Craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television.
Support is also provided by the Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV, Business Leaders for Michigan, ITC Holdings, LLC, Michigan Technological University, W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi there, and welcome to One Detroit from the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Christy McDonald. We're wrapping up the last day of the conference from the parlor of the Grand Hotel. It has been a full week of speakers, sessions, and deeper conversations about the biggest issues facing the state of Michigan. Coming up on the show, Nolan and Stephen join me to give their perspectives on this year's conference and some of the highlights. Plus, we'll take a look at where the conversations go from here after everyone leaves the island. What will people still be talking about and taking action on? Also coming up, we'll show you some of the best moments from the week. And the guys from Under the Radar Michigan get in a game of golf on the island. That's all coming up. But let's start with a recap of the conference. And joining me now, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of WDET, an American Black Journal. Guys, by this point of the conference, I sound a little bit like B. Arthur. My voice has dropped a little bit lower. It was a really great week. So let's just go ahead and kind of take a look at some of the news items that came out and really, I think, start on what the feel was. You know, we're not in an election year. No. We have leadership change in terms of politics and really kind of seeing what their focus would be, their agenda, and a little bit of the vibe, Nolan.
Well, one of the biggest issues was taken off the table before they got here with the deal on no-fault insurance reform, which was signed on the island. I think that was a very triumphant moment. It was reminiscent of the early Snyder years when they'd come up here with a whole lot of things to celebrate rather than, problems to tackle. So I think that was taken off the table early. I don't think anybody expected a road deal up here, and of course there wasn't one. And that from the quadrant discussion last night, I don't think there's going to be one for a while. And I don't think there's going to be a budget deal for a while. One thing missing this year that we've talked about almost every year for the last 5 years, I didn't hear the word transit the whole time I was up here.
Oh, geez. No, that's very true. What do you think?
We're nowhere on transit. I talked to Mark Hackle yesterday about that, and he said that we're at least a few years from even putting that back in front of voters. I think the roads question is the thing that has the biggest question mark sort of around it coming out of this week. I did kind of expect that you'd see maybe not a deal, but maybe the way forward to a deal emerge
or the counter proposal, which I don't think that we're going to be seeing for a little bit.
And I think it's not okay.
Budget process.
I actually think it's not okay that the Senate has said, oh, we're going to have a plan. We have an idea for a plan, and has not been willing or able to share any of the details with that about that with anybody. I think that's kind of an unfair tease, and it's a way of kind of prolonging this stalemate about the budget that by the end of the summer starts to look pretty dire. I would hope that they would hurry up and put something else on the table so that there can be a negotiation about
and the
what we're
governor
do.
The governor did say yesterday to me that she wants to have a budget deal done maybe by the end of July. I think she's going to still push for what we've seen over the last 8 years from Governor Snyder in having the precedent set of getting a budget done by the end of June. But since it is tied with everything with road funding, and it seems like that a lot of the goodwill came from No Fault, that this is going to be a process that's really going to stretch out now.
And who knows? I mean, she had wanted No Fault tied to the budget and a road deal. When Dan Gilbert come out with his petition drive, that sort of took that leverage away. So she took the deal, the best deal she could get on No Fault insurance reform. We asked at the Quadrant session last night, Steve and I moderated, we asked them about that 45-cent gas proposal, and the best Jim Ananich and Christine Craig, the Democratic leaders, would say is, well, if it comes up, we'll put up half the votes. But that proposal hasn't hit the legislature yet either. That was a budget proposal. No piece of legislation has hit the legislature on that either. I think it'll be really, really hard to get support for that proposal. So I think basically they're starting from scratch here on what a solution is going to look like.
Well, I mean, if you're the governor at this point, if you're going to stick to that number, that 45-cent gas tax increase, you have to now go and make that case directly to the people because the polls are so bad on it. That gives cover to any legislator to say, well, I'm not voting for that because my constituents don't want it. Her leverage with them is going to have to be popular support, which they have not. They have been going around the state and talking to people, I think, in pretty small groups. I think they're going to have to do something much more publicly and much more sort of at a high level to swing public opinion any other way.
And be able to give people details, because again, we can all agree that the roads are terrible, and we can all agree that the bridges need to be fixed, and no one wants to get, no one wants to be behind the 8 ball than we already are on infrastructure. But, we put this out on Twitter, my conversation with the governor talking about the roads yesterday, the amount of traffic of people coming back saying, you can't fix the roads right now, so why would I want to give you 45 cents on the gallon anyway? And it's trust. It's trust that they can get the job done and get it done right. And it's not just roads, though. You have a crisis of trust in government across the board.
Yeah. I mean, I think they can do it. I mean, I actually believe that they can make the case. And what the governor's people will tell you is that when they do talk with small groups of people about this, once they can assure them that the money will go where they say it's going to go, and explain that the other alternatives to this are either just as unappealing or worse, that people do change their minds.
Or
and people say,
$2.5 billion. If that stinks, that number's going to go up in about 4 more years.
But you have to do that in a way. They have not been telling that story in a compelling way at a high level, right?
There's no way to make that story compelling. They're going to have to be a lot more clever, a lot more innovative in the revenue solution if there's going to be a revenue solution. Michigan motorists are not going to tolerate for the highest in the nation gas price. They look at gas prices in Ohio, Indiana when they travel. They're not going to accept California, Washington State gas prices here. So I think there's going to have to be some sort of other solution. Maybe it's a sales tax. Maybe it's money.
To that too.
Absolutely, but I don't think they're going to accept highest in the nation gas taxes here. Just Michigan, when Governor Snyder, he did a major PSA campaign. He talked himself till he's blue in the face, and he couldn't get 15 cents a gallon passed.
Another thing came out, a couple of items of note, looking at Enbridge, that, hey, maybe in 2024 we'll get you a new pipeline, and kind of changing the timeline on that. And the governor's like, well, maybe we can do that even sooner. Was that a surprising development to either one of you?
Well, yeah, I mean, we knew the governor and Enbridge were negotiating, and what she said earlier was this deal might be more palatable to me if it's a shorter timetable. It's in Enbridge's best interest to get a shorter timetable, but they've really got only about 2-3 weeks left in this year to get a deal done to make even the original deadline, because they've got to bring in, as I understand it, a special ship from Norway to do core samples in the Straits. Very expensive process. they're not going to start that ship on its way here unless they have a deal.
That's true.
So, and they need it in place by the end of June to get it done before winter. So they're on their own deadline here.
But the wild card here now is the Attorney General, who says she believes she has the authority to shut the pipeline down. She says if there is not a solution that is to her liking by the end of June, that's what she's going to do. Now, is she right? I don't know. She says that the law gives her that authority. That's going to start a big legal battle over this that will unfold if she does it along the same lines as this negotiation.
Worse than that, of course, she thinks she has the authority to run Michigan. But
I'm not quite sure she thinks that.
It seems that. But worse than that, I mean, it shuts down the economy of Michigan. The petroleum products that pass through that pipeline are essential to the economy of particularly of southeastern Michigan, but also of the Upper Peninsula. You can't just cut off energy supplies and think there's going to be no consequences.
Well, let's stop with the Armageddon prognosis here. There are other ways to get those products where they need to go.
But not like that.
They would be more expensive in the short term. It's not going to be the end of the world. Well, they'd have to
have a process in place before they do anything.
But it's not going to be.
Well,
you're
not going to put a process in place. You could say we can take them by truck, but you're not going to just go like that and materialize 1,000 new.
But it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world if the pipeline gets shut down.
Without preparation, it could be.
But I will tell you this:
it could have severe effects on Michigan's economy.
It would be the end of the world if that pipeline started to leak. And you talk about irreversible damage to Michigan, to the economy, to the environment. That's the thing we ought to be concerned about, not the money that Enbridge is making off of this.
But that pipeline
last word
has
on this.
never leaked.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk about a couple more things coming, like looking a little bit down the road in just a minute. But there have been a lot of important conversations and announcements here at Mackinac. Here are some of the highlights of the week.
We're going to talk about something that's really shocking. You know, we're going to talk about Michigan's crumbling infrastructure, right? I want you to see a video that I took coming from Traverse City to Mackinac City on Saturday. I did the Bayshore 10K. I walked it with some of my girlfriends for the Memorial Day weekend, and then I came right over here. So one of our Pure Michigan destinations to another one of our Pure Michigan destinations, and this is the road. As you can see, it is riddled with potholes, years of patching, and it looks like a third world country going from Traverse City, Michigan to Mackinac City. Our roads are terrible and they're downright dangerous, and this is the problem that we've got to fix. And when we fix it right, we can address all the other pieces of the budget that I highlighted.
We've taken down 18,000 houses. You can see how they're clustered. Every green dot is an abandoned house. That's a great thing. But when I say we've got to do this, I said we took down the 18,000, 6,000 people bought vacant houses and moved back to the city. Every one of those blue dots was vacant 5 years ago and has got a family in it today. And again, you can see how they're clustered. The same areas we targeted the demolitions were the areas people moved back into, where the property values came back the fastest.
You're negotiating with teachers on their contract, and they have talked about maybe they would like to see some of the funds that you already have being able to augment their salaries. Have you pushed back against that, and where are you right now with teachers?
So this is the third year of a three-year agreement. We've increased teacher salaries in the first 2 years by an average of $6,000. We put a proposal forward that would take the teachers, the greatest experienced teachers, the most veteran teachers, to the levels they were before emergency management. And we offered double what teachers would receive in a traditional step at the lower steps. But DFT wanted a step increase for all teachers. So we now went back to the drawing board and is trying to restructure that package in order to provide the traditional step. And we're waiting for DFT to give us our official counter offer. You know, interestingly enough, we want the same thing. So I want teachers to be the highest paid in Detroit versus anywhere else in the country. We just don't generate the revenue to do that.
I want to kind of ask each one of you what your experience has been like so far and what people are asking you about and talking to you about at the conference, because I always find that's a very fascinating thing, like what some of the first things are, what the interests that people have on their mind. Congresswoman Lawrence.
They're buzzing about the weather. It was, it's true. God welcomed us to the island. The weather has been great, but also the discussion about bipartisan. And as the Michigan delegation stood together on the porch and talked about our commitment to our water here in Michigan, and how of all the things that we are not on the same page, when it comes to this amazing resource we have, natural resource of water, and then investing in water infrastructure, the Clean Water Act, that we're standing together. And so it's kind of a time to step back from the things we disagree and try to find those things that will move Michigan forward and how we can work together.
I bet a lot of people are talking to you about the feeling in Washington right now, and if it's chaotic, and can you really get work done?
And we stood there together, all saying, look out at this water. We have a unique responsibility to legislate, to protect, and to fund the protections of these Great Lakes. And also Flint is always on our mind. Water infrastructure, clean, safe, affordable water in Michigan.
So what are the kind of the big issues that people are talking to you about up here?
Well, you know, there's so many things going on in the state right now, and there's so many things that my office is currently doing. So, you know, I think there's a lot of excitement that's been generated on the work that we're doing, and whether that has to do with, you know, making certain that, you know, rates are reduced for utilities, for gas and electric, for consumers all over the state, or protecting consumers when it comes to things like making certain that they're not paying too much for their medication, or protecting seniors, or some of the environmental cases that we have pending. I think people are excited about all the great things that they know that the Department of Michigan Attorney General can do and now is doing.
You know, since 2010, we have welcomed over 115 nationally recognized thought leaders to this stage. And that's just one of the reasons why over 1,700 of Michigan's top leaders, all of you, come to this event every year. And this event is unique in the nation. I know because my counterparts across the nation come here every year to see what this is all about. And year after year, they go home to wherever they came from and said, we have got to do something like this Mackinac Policy Conference that they have in an island in Michigan. But time after time, they have failed. This is truly unique, a statewide gathering of thought leaders to talk about this state and the future of the state and really solve problems.
All right, now that everyone is heading back home to their part of the state, let's talk about the issues that will likely stay in the forefront and the agendas that are going to be pushed. Let's talk a little bit about Mayor Mike Duggan talking about a $200 million bond to take down, to demo blighted homes, and the rest of the work to be done. Well,
you know, that is a program that has had its issues, and if we're going to pump another $200 million into it, he's going to have to make sure it operates efficiently, particularly if he's going to go to voters and ask for a bond. You've had some cost run-ups there. You've had some shady practices by contractors. He's got to get that blight removal program really spotless and beyond any shadow of scandal if he's going to ask voters for that.
I mean, you know, there's been a lot of impatience about the way that he's run that program, and he came in and said he could do it faster than former mayors, and they all believe that when they get there. But we've been doing demolition in the city of Detroit for 40 years. It has always been expensive. It has always been rife with a little bit of hijinks and corruption. Sure. I mean, you go back to the 70s and 80s. None of this stuff is new. Every mayor thinks they can do it better. I think what he's learned is that there's a process here and that it is not cheap to do it. That saying you can do it for $10,000 a home is insane. No. There's no such thing as doing it safely at those kind of prices. I hope in that $200 million, what they're accounting for is the real cost of actually demoing these homes and the cost of administering the program in a way that these contractors who have always stretched the rules can be managed in a way that stops them from doing it. And they didn't do that in the first couple of years of this administration. I hope they've learned their lessons.
And you got to put the brakes on abandonment now. I mean, if you're going to
stop feeding into the
you can't blight. Tear down homes while others are being abandoned and falling into blight. So he's got to put an end to that and then deal with the existing inventory.
Real quick, a lot of talk about education up here and saying now it's changed and we need to start tackling things.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day indeed. There was nothing up here that addressed both the cultural indifference to education reform and the big major barrier that other states who've made progress have knocked down, and that's a bifurcated system where nobody has the clear authority to fix the schools. You have a state school board, elected governor, and they don't interact with each other very well.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. It was another great Mackinac. Did you get fudge for the ferry ride home, gentlemen?
I hate fudge.
Oh, gosh. Well, aren't you a killjoy?
Put some in our bags.
They did. We'll have to do this.
That out of
all right. We'll see you back down in Detroit. Finally, tonight, we enjoy having the guys from Under the Radar Michigan up here with us every year, and they're closing out the week with a game of golf on the state's oldest course.
Hey everybody, it's me, Tom Dalton from Under the Radar on PBS TV. Look, if you're a golfer and you want to have a unique experience, you need to come to Wawashkamo. It's right here on Mackinac Island, and it's Michigan's oldest golf course. It's so old it wasn't built before the last century, it was built before the century before that.
Now, to make sure I was up to par on this classic course, I set up a tee time, talk that is, with head pro Chuck Olson.
So Chuck, what are some under-the-radar things that people might not know about Wawashkamo?
Well, Tom, it's been here for a long time, as we've talked about. 1898 was when it first was built. It has a very old style, and the greatest thing about it is they haven't changed it. Never had a renovation. It's just like it was, and we're real proud of it. The other thing would be is that in 1814, the British and the Americans fought a battle here, and they did it right on the golf course. So that was another thing that would be very interesting. Wawashkamo as a name has kind of an interesting name too. It's certainly an American Indian name, and it means to walk a crooked trail. In the old days, the chief, Eagle Eye, lived across the street, and when he would watch the golfers play, he couldn't figure out what they were doing, and it looked like to them they were walking a crooked trail.
Right, chasing the ball.
So yeah, that's how Wawashkamo got its name. So all those things, I think, if you think of golf courses, you think of Mackinac Island. Wawashkamo really represents what Mackinac Island is all about, historical, interesting things, and we really love it here.
Mind if I go hit a couple?
Be my guest.
All right, watch this.
So if you're tired of the same old sand traps, come swing away at Wawashkamo. I guarantee that by the 9th green, you might even be able to say it right.
Hey Jim, watch how the pros do it. Oh boy. Come on, Jim, let's go. Drive. We're in trouble now.
Thanks, guys. And that is going to do it for One Detroit from the Mackinac Policy Conference. Thanks to the Detroit Regional Chamber and the Grand Hotel for hosting us in the lobby every day. Plus, we couldn't do this without the hard work of a talented crew at Detroit Public TV. If you missed any part of the conference, just go to DetroitPBS.org and watch the sessions and the interviews on demand. For all of us at Detroit Public TV, I'm Christy McDonald. We will see you next time. Take care.